Welcome, everyone, to episode one, or I guess our first official episode of the Enrichment Science Podcast. My name is Jason Crean,
And I'm Lara Joseph.
and we're going to use this opportunity to talk about what enrichment actually is. I think it's a catchword for a lot of people these days, but we're going to go through the science of what it is and why it's important.
Yes. And this is a topic that we can go on for hours, which is why we're going to have a weekly episode with you. But we wanted to come on here and at least give a starting point. Right? Jason, you want me to go ahead with my bio introduction real quick? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Lara Joseph. I'm owner of the Animal Behavior Center, an international educational center where we teach people all over the world how to work with animals using the science of applied behavior analysis. I'm a professional animal trainer, behavior consultant, and enrichment specialist that obviously focuses on the science of behavior known as applied behavior analysis.
And my name is Jason Crean. I am a biologist and professor. I'm an aviculturist. I've had raised birds for a very long time. And I consult on animal nutrition to zoos as well as private individuals. I teach animal nutrition, zoo biology, and other courses in the Department of Biological Sciences at St. Xavier University, where we also have our animal nutrition lab. And I'm the lead formulator for biodiversity bird blends. I'm actually in right now the new Avian Education Center at the Biodiversity Bird Blends new facility that Lara will be visiting soon to do workshops right here. And because education is something that's important to both of us. So yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. So we wanted to start with what is enrichment? So the act of improving or enhancing the quality or value of something. I always call it an arousal of the senses. I can go into it's something, anything that the animals are interacting with, observing, smelling, feeling, that they can learn from, manipulate, that enhances their well-being. That's what I say it is.
Yeah, and since I'm heavy on the nutrition end, I typically think of foraging and different ways that we can offer a challenge so that they spend more time foraging during their regular day. I deal with birds a lot, and most birds, they spend over half their day foraging. So when we bring them into managed environments like our homes or zoos, we need to make sure that we're catering to that need to forage. And so I find it enriching to find ways to enrich their lives. So I find ways to challenge them, to give them, to make them reach further for their food, to dig further for their food, whatever it takes. But to give them an opportunity to engage in the foraging behavior, since that's what they've evolved to do.
Yeah. Every animal has to eat. It's how we provide their food. We can provide it just in a bowl, or we can make it very enriching for them, which is foraging, how we present it, making them work for their food. And we'll have more upcoming episodes on foraging. We wanted to focus this one on what is enrichment and why it's important. Obviously, I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but this is something that should be provided for all animals under human care.
So that leads us to who needs enrichment, which is everybody. You need it, I need it, all the animals we care for need it. So enrichment is really important, and it takes on many different forms. We need to look at how these animals have evolved in the wild, because we can't expect animals to perform behaviors that they're not able to do, right? Physically and mentally. So We want to look at what types of things they do in the wild, how they've adapted to life in the wild, and then how can we mimic those replicate or mimic those types of enrichment opportunities.
Yep. And when we watch our animals with this enrichment as well, we can learn so much more about them. So, um, I even put a picture of Stan, our fish, in here with some enrichment that we just took this photo and just put this piece of enrichment in there. He's just starting to figure it out, but just seeing how active and how he's responding to once the enrichment goes in his aquarium. Um, I always say every animal needs enrichment. Um, the more intelligent they are, the harder they can be to care for. Um, so an enrichment can help us prevent a lot of behavior issues as well. And I know I'm starting to jump ahead of the slides, Jason. So when you change the slides, okay. So why enrichment? Why is it important? Jason and I came up with a list, and it's not just us. Studies will prove a lot of this. Like Jason had said, to stimulate natural behaviors. And Jason, feel free to jump in at any point. It helps prevent boredom, stress, and like what I already mentioned, will help prevent behavior issues. We incorporate enrichment to help the animals' overall quality of life. It keeps them mentally and physically engaged. It also helps prevent behavior concerns, which when behavior concerns aren't addressed, the animal will find their own form of enrichment, and a lot of times it's not the form in the way that we want them to. It can lead to abnormal repetitive behaviors, which a lot of times can lead to self-injurious behaviors, which can lead to medical issues. Not only do you have a behavior issue, now you have a behavior issue and a medical issue. It just really increases their physical activity, their quality of life, incorporates choice, control, complexity in a way for them to manipulate their environment and um, get their own outcome out of it, or get a surprising outcome, which is enriching, variety of outcomes. The more that animal manipulates that enrichment and the more that enrichment changes, the more control the animal has over their environment, which includes choice.
Yeah, and when you look at the whole list, to sum it all up, it's enhancing their mental and their physical well-being, wellness. And what I see a lot of is when an animal has a problem, like let's just say feather pluckers, because that's pretty common. Um, we tend to just want to treat it one way, but it's really, you have to look at the animal holistically. And you need to look at like, how am I engaging it mentally? How is its mental state? And am I working its body? Am I working it so that the animal's exercising and moving? And, flight is not the only type of exercise. There's lots of exercise. Most of what birds do is not flying. Most of it's climbing and hanging and, things like that, wandering around in trees. So it's really important that we're looking at both their mental health as well as their physical health. And both of them, not just one or the other. We need to attack it, problems like that both. And that's why enrichment is so important.
Yes, yes. So vital roles in mental and physical well-being. Um, I do believe in both of our opinion. Enrichment is not an option. It is a must. It's not a luxury. We use enrichment. It's a necessity for maintaining the mental and physical health of animals, just like the proper nutrition and health care. And Jason, did you want to say anything? I know I listed The studies are there. They're overwhelming. Enrichment has always been a really important part of the work that we do. We've been in this long enough to see enrichment not even really be mentioned to the point now where it's becoming mentioned all the time. The studies are there, a lot of them.
Yeah, and this was a great example of the Lara and I just saw this gorilla carrying around this pail full of items. He was a troublemaker. He was causing all kinds of trouble, but that's enrichment. But the environment as a whole was very enriching. Lots of plant life. They're outdoors. There's lots of things that they can climb and scale and hang from. So lots of different things in the environment can be an easy way to um, engage them, right? So there's lots of different ways to do enrichment, but that's we're not saying that you should provide a zoo exhibit for every animal in your care, but there's definitely elements of that you can introduce.
Yes, and you can get creative. You give
Mhm.
me an environment, I'm going to show you a way to enrich it for
Yeah,
that individual animal.
right.
Um, a lot of animals naturally engage in complex behaviors in the wild. There's so much that happens in the wild, such as searching for food, rearing their young, taking care of animals, taking care of each other in social situations. Enrichment helps replicate those opportunities under our care, promoting their natural behaviors. And I always say, if you're going to take um, if you're going to take something natural away from an animal, you better replace it with something else. Because if you don't, likely a behavior issue is going to develop. And once those behavior issues develop, now you have to counter condition them, which is means replace or give them options. But the thing is now they know how to, even if it's a self-injurious behavior or abnormal repetitive behavior, such as feather plucking or eye poking for some primates. It, the animal's the one that decides if it's worth doing this behavior. If the animal gets something from this behavior, um, it's being reinforced. We're not the ones that identify the reinforcer. So I'm really big into preventing behavior issues through enrichment. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would once again reiterate, we have to know how they live in the wild so that we can replicate these types of behaviors. And some animals are social, so they benefit from social um, engagement, and that's enrichment. So the reason you see at zoos, the reason you see elephants in groups, female elephants in groups, is because that's how they've evolved. They've evolved to maintain these very complex social bonds with other females. And if you see a single male, it's probably a male. A single elephant, it's probably a male because they're solo. They only come into contact with other elephants, usually during breeding season. So we have to think about what type of enrichment. Keeping certain species together, individuals together, is enriching in itself. Breeding pairs, for example, are enriching. That's enriching for them. But if an animal's on its own, you need to provide, more enrichment. But enrichment is good for everybody. So social. The reason we have the elephant picture in there is because that's a really great example of the need for social enrichment.
Hmm.
And speaking of social enrichment,
Yeah. I thought we had social enrichment on another slide as well. I just don't want to miss an opportunity to mention, is this it?
yeah, I think this is it.
Okay.
You're muted.
Oh, I don't know how I did that. Sorry. Um, Nature offers complex behaviors. Like Jason was just saying, a lot of animals naturally live together in groups, conspiracies, flocks, what have you. And studies will also show that one of the most complex forms of enrichment is social enrichment. And I'm not saying that, like Jason said, we need to look at how these animals live in the wild. And I always say my biggest competitor is Mother Nature because I care for animals who will forever be under human care. So my biggest competitor is Mother Nature. I'll never beat her, but I can keep striving to provide as much as possible if I set my goals that high. Jason?
Yeah, so these once again, and I mean, I basically talked a lot about social behavior already, but these animals here are meant to be in groups, but that doesn't mean that they don't get additional enrichment in their exhibits. You know, a lot of when you look at meerkat exhibits, these are troublemakers. They're looking for trouble. I'm convinced they sit up and have meetings at night to think of how to make everybody crazy. They
You said that
dig.
about lemurs too.
Well, lemurs too. Lemurs definitely do that. I mean, look at them. You know they do. But giving them as many different things to do. And this is why I love working with zoos because they do so much. I mean, they have people that spend their full-time jobs for enrichment. And looking at meerkat exhibits where there's lots of digging space, there's lots of live insects hidden around where they can dig them up and eat them. Lots of vegetation thrown around, so they never know what they're going to find. And you see all these different types of natural behaviors show up, like the sentinel behavior, where these meerkats stand up on their hind legs and watch. Even if they're in an indoor exhibit, they still do those behaviors. So giving them rocks to climb up on so that they have places to do those things like they would in the wild is important. And lemurs are climbers and jumpers, and they need a lot of different things to do to keep them busy.
Yes. Like Jason had mentioned, just having them in groups, flocks, whatever that's not enough. But they do thrive off of interacting with each other, communicating with each other, especially in ways that we don't understand exactly what's happening. But lemurs, I know firsthand, are extremely active. They can be extremely active animals, and sitting around like this is something they do several times a day, but definitely not what they do all day.
Mhm. So I think
Um,
this is a
yep.
familiar picture with for a lot of us growing up. I know my grandparents had a canary that was in a cage in their living room, a very small round cage. And um, but even a tiny bird like this needs enrichment. I know people that keep jumping spiders as pets, and they need enrichment. They need an environment to where they can hide and feel secure. So every little thing um, that's alive needs some kind of enrichment. And I think the classic canary in the cage is a really good reminder of how we have gone, how far we've come, and how much better we can do when it comes to the animals. But enrichment should be a regular thing. You should always be thinking of ways to keep your animals engaged, their minds engaged. Animals that don't get regular enrichment and have a fairly stagnant environment, maybe because their owners work a lot or they just don't, they just don't have a lot of time, are more likely to be neophobic. And I know, Lara, I've heard you say over and over and over again, the biggest thing to keep animals accustomed to is change. And that's goes for a canary, goes for gorillas, it goes for whatever it is, so that they don't become neophobic, afraid of new things every time something new comes into the environment.
Yeah, and that leads me to two things I want to talk about. And first and foremost is how I got into the profession of working with animals was through enrichment, enriching their environments. I want to see animals thriving, engaging with their environment, learning from their environment, exploring their environment, exploring variety. And that's how I entered this field. And then I entered the field of animal training through positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis through enrichment because I saw that the training was an animal's preferred, well, can be an animal's preferred form of enrichment. There's the social, there's the mental, there's the physical. It adds all of them. Um, but I just wanted to say that's how I became a trainer, is because I like enriching animals' lives. But training an animal a lot of times is me involving myself with the animal. I'm not always going to be there. I need that animal continuing to do things while I'm not there and learning. And getting back to stagnant environments, there is an article, a research paper out there by Minch and Meehan out of UC Davis, and it states in that, and I don't have it here, but if you reach out to Jason and I, and be happy to give you the link to the paper. But it says one of the worst things we can do is see an animal just sitting there, perching there, whatever, not engaging with its environment. That doesn't keep an animal used to change, because change is going to happen, whether you like it or not, whether you're expecting it or not. Change is coming. And the more we can offer variety and choice to that animal, the more well adapted they will be through enrichment.
Mhm. Yep, and that ties perfectly into well-designed enrichment because it's offering them those different choices. You talked a little bit about enhancing the senses earlier. Well-designed enrichment, depending on the species that you're catering to, needs to cater to their senses. I think that's probably one of the reasons why you see more colorful toys available for certain species that you keep and others not so much. But you have to think about how it enhances their environment and how it adds something, some kind of novelty, something that makes them curious, something that gets their mind engaged. And once again, it takes their natural history into account. How have they adapted? Obviously, parrots need wood and things like that to chew on because that's what their beaks are for. Their beaks are there to be challenged. That nutcracker needs a challenge. And so, giving them things that are biologically appropriate to their evolution is important. And then diversity, and I'll let Lara talk about diversity and complexity.
Oh, I can talk about that all day long.
I know you can.
Yeah, and we can shape complexity. We don't want the same old enrichment in there just because the animal interacted with it once, or interacted with it numerous times throughout the day, doesn't mean that's the only form of enrichment that we provide, which is something I see a trap a lot of people fall into. Because studies show with predictability comes boredom. So we want that environment changing. We need it to increase in complexity. I have yet to meet one animal of any species that is not going to benefit from enrichment, that doesn't learn from enrichment. And in future episodes, Jason and I will talk about shaping enrichment, how, incorporating enrichment into animals' lives that are older, that are not used to having enrichment. Do not let anything prevent you from providing this. If you have questions, ask us. If you need help, ask us.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of, well, my bird didn't like that. And that just means we didn't try hard enough. That's on us. That's not on the bird.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not the
are there
bird's
some,
problem.
sorry?
I'm sorry. I said that's not the bird's problem.
Yes, exactly. And I often say that animal training usually starts with retraining the human first, because our mindset is if we tried something once or twice and they didn't like it, we give up. And that's unfair to the animal. That's really, I find it cruel to the animal. I think that if we don't give them a chance, right, and it could take weeks or months of a chance to get accustomed to something new, we're not being fair to that animal. So it's really important to add diversity and complexity so that they're accustomed to that and they're accustomed to the challenge and they're curious about things instead of being afraid of them.
Yeah. Yep. And if the animal isn't engaging with it, it's not enrichment. It's up to us to take it out and redesign it to the point where they do begin engaging.
Or,
Sorry.
yeah, or offer it in a different way, like when it comes to foods, offer it in a different way. Maybe it needs to be hung on a skewer instead of placed in a bowl, or maybe it needs to be diced and put on a plate for birds that graze on the ground, like African grays, for example, who are the kings and queens of neophobia. So I think that, giving them a chance is really, really important.
Yes. And investigating in enrichment is an ethical responsibility. It's our responsibility. It demonstrates a commitment to true animal care, dignity, respect, their overall welfare. Um, yeah, it is. If we're going to care for an animal, enrichment is providing enrichment is our responsibility.
And learning about it, and learning what not to do is just as important. I see a lot of people offer cardboard boxes to birds, and there's some, the way it's presented is important, because throwing a cardboard box on the floor of a cage could be problematic for birds that are broody, nesty, and that will enhance hormonal behavior. You don't want to give your birds a dark place to sleep, inside of a cage. It's just, a tent or things like that. That's just not good. So knowing what's enriching, but also appropriate is really important. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about how to enrich the lives of the animals that you keep.
Yep.
So one of the papers that we pulled specifically about parrots was called Nature Calls, and Intelligence and Natural Foraging Style Predict Poor Welfare in Captive Parrots. So what they did was, and I looked at the supplemental data on this paper, and it is immense. It's like 46 pages of supplemental data. And what they found was and if you look at the quotes here, that the less naturalistic the diet is, the more problems come. And they found that to prevent undesirable behavior like feather destructive behavior, they said to prevent these, our results suggest that care should improve to supply these wild animals with naturalistic food items and cognitive stimulation. Okay, that doesn't mean a pellet. It means naturalistic food, diverse whole food diets. And if redressing these deficits is impossible, meaning if you can't do that, then perhaps keeping these intelligent species with these naturally handling intensive diets should cease, which means maybe you shouldn't have these animals if you can't provide the enrichment for them. That's a little harsh, but it's true. If you can't address the enrichment needs of the animals, which includes offering a diverse whole food diet, not just throwing food in a bowl and walking away, especially with animals and it says here, naturally handling intensive diets, which means parrots handle intensive diets. So they handle a lot of different foods. And when you've ever seen a parrot engage with food or an object like this Pyonis here, they're using a lot of their body to interact. So it's not just a snake swallowing food, it's interacting with these food types and manipulating them and really thinking about how to get to the good stuff like nuts, and seeds and things like that, which are really important parts of parrot diets. So I found this paper to be really thought-provoking because it talks about the fact that we really need to enrich the diet, enrich the environment so that they have lots of cognitive stimulation. They are thinking, they have to think about things in their environments. And so the research that's out there from zoos and universities and other things when it comes to enrichment of all species is plentiful. You usually have to search for it by species because obviously different species have different needs, but it is out there, like Lara said earlier. So lots of research is available.
And studies show that enriched animals, if the animal isn't interacting with it, it's not enriching. Well, not necessarily, not all of it, but and we can get into that more in future episodes. But studies show that enriched animals are healthier, more resilient, and less prone to illness or stress-related issues. The more variety we provide through enrichment, the more the animal is manipulating it, interacting with it, the less fearful they're going to be, the more curious they're going to be, the less stress-related issues. Enrichment is a proven evidence-based approach to improve animal behavior and welfare, yet it's often overlooked and underfunded. I was not
Yeah,
going to say not or, but and.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So we
So,
hope this provided a well-rounded, beginning to this podcast. Lara, how do people find you?
you can find me at my website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. You can always find me there, and you can email me. The contact link will be in the upper right corner.
And tell people briefly about how they can access more of these podcasts, because these podcasts are a perk for our respective membership programs.
Yeah, the podcasts are exclusive in my memberships to people in the Parrot Project. That is one of several annual memberships people can join under my guidance and my following my work in the Parrot Project, which you can find on the Animal Behaviors website. If not, email me. Oh, my email address is right there. I forgot.
And I have the Team Thrive Avian Nutrition Program. Mine is a lifetime membership, so you just pay one time and you're in. We facilitate the group on Facebook, but then there's courses like Avian Nutrition 101 and 102, for example, that where you can get a certificate of completion for each of those. 103 is coming. But you can join Team Thrive by going to biobirdblends.com, clicking on the shop online link at the top, and then you can just register right on the shop. Our email addresses are here, and we hope you enjoyed this. And we will see you for episode 2 soon, hopefully.
Next week.
Hopefully.
Take care, everyone.